These videos use the terminology and typology of objective personality system, and anyone I present in these videos have been typed by ops in a double-blind format to be as objective as possible in arriving at the type. If you're unfamiliar with ops or how it works, you can look it up on YouTube and find plenty of resources to make more sense of what I'm about to share and will share in future videos. Or you can also watch my video, What is the Objective Personality System, in the description for a basic overview. So with that said, let's talk about Teal Swan's personality type. So you see right here, I'll have her type up. Teal Swan is an ENTJ jumper. So her primary function is extroverted thinking. Her secondary function is extroverted sensing. So she is an ENTJ. So I'm going to go through all these videos in the same format and talk about each of these parts and how that practically plays itself out as well in Teal Swan. So first, let's talk about the savior or first function and the greatest strength. This is going to be what someone is doing obsessively all the time, on autopilot, on crack, and they're taking tons of responsibility for it. So as an extroverted thinker, Teal Swan's greatest concern that she's constantly processing is what works at scale, what works for everyone, extroverted thinking. If you watch her content, you can see this very clearly. She's constantly blasting and talking to others about what works, primarily in relationships, but also in self-help, personal healing. Being extroverted thinking, she's a thinker, so she prioritizes logic, but she also prioritizes the tribe or others. And so it is broad-based logic. So with that said, her inverse function and the greatest void that she's leaving in the world, and therefore her greatest fear, we all fear, all of our fears are a result of the void that we leave, the biggest void that we leave in the world. So in other words, what's the opposite polarity of her greatest strength? Because she's extroverted thinking, her greatest weakness and where she requires the most personal work is introverted feeling. FI is prioritizing values, personal values. And so someone who's extroverted thinking, their biggest fear is actually going to be self. Going into the inner world and processing who you are, what you value, is going to be naturally the lowest priority for Teal Swan, because she's focused on everyone else, she's focused on helping others, she's focusing on presenting truth and logic at scale, and therefore the inverse resulting void will be introverted feeling. Now, your middle functions, which you'll see for her are extroverted sensing and introverted intuition, are what you're balanced with, what you don't really get in too much trouble for. It's interesting because we think of the savior first function as, what we are doing most effectively, but the problem is we're doing it so much we're leaving a void. The middle functions are what we're balanced with, and so because Teal is balanced with the extroverted sensing and the introverted intuition, she's not really getting caught up in things. Deciders, which are thinkers and feelers on the poles, they're going to get caught up with people issues. They are going to get most triggered by people issues. They're not going to be afraid of the government controlling them and the printer breaking and things. She's going to navigate, her business and hiccups in her business just fine. The biggest void is going to be the people issues. It's going to be the biggest struggle, but she's going to balance really well between sensory and intuition. And what this means is that she's very good at gathering in facts and articulating them in clear and concise patterns. She's excellent. If you watch her videos, she's just incredible. You can tell she's gathered quite a bit of information. The topics that she covers on the channel are vast, and she's really good at communicating them. So those middle functions are going to be very balanced. So next we have the animals and primal behaviors. If you're not familiar with animals, you're going to have to go look up some videos with OPS, Objective Personality System. But her animal stack is play, blast, sleep, consume. So a couple things here. With the animals first off dictate whether you're introverted or extroverted in your energy, because these animals are primary behaviors. Whatever two you have in the top three are going to dictate whether you're an introvert or an extrovert. So there's play and blast, which are extroverted animals, and sleep and consume, which are introverted animals. So for Teal, because she's got the play and the blast not only in the top three, but both first, she's one of the most extroverted types out there, very extroverted. Next, each person is either info dominant or energy dominant. And all that means is they are either balancing between play and sleep, energy, or blast and consume, information. So because Teal has that consume last, her void is with information. So she's energy oriented. She's going to be really good at balancing between conserving energy and expending energy. But her void and imbalance is going to be that consume last. She's, as a blast first personality, she's going to be very good at communicating, teaching, getting started. And she's going to learn by making mistakes. She's not going to sit back and wait to consume the information to get started. She's going to tend to speak before she knows the information and then learn by banging against the walls. That's what consume last do. Talk first, ask questions later is consume last. Next, we have the modalities. What are they pushing on and what are they movable on? So we'll look at this from the standpoint of the functions. You'll see next to the letters, she's a masculine TE and masculine NI. And so what this means is she's going to push on the logic and she's going to push on the patterns. What she's going to move on and be movable with are the facts, SE, and she's going to be movable with the FI. She's going to have a very feminine, movable feeling state. Typically what this looks and feels like is the primary emotion of feminine feelings is going to be sadness over anger. When she's pushing and fighting you, she's going to fight with logic. She's not going to fight with emotions or anger. So she's a very direct personality, but she's direct with logic. She's not direct as frequently with emotions. So that's what she's pushing on. What's also interesting is because she's masculine NI and masculine TE, she's double masculine blast. And you can definitely see this with her. Her mode of communication is extremely direct. She's going to talk about this is what's going to happen if you do this, right? She's the masculine NI, seeing the patterns, seeing the future, and really pushing on that. But she's going to be double feminine consume. So she's consume last and it's double feminine. So it's going to be something that's very underworked and a huge void, frankly, is that the work for someone like Teal Swan would be to slow down, go consume some information, and consume is really actually updating your worldview. It's not just reading books or consuming information in and of itself. It's a human state of updating your worldview, taking in, being receptive to new information before you're teaching is a good way to think about it. So next I'm going to talk about activation, which is what you see most clearly when you observe them. So she is double masculine, double activated blast. And you're going to see that's what the black surrounding is of the NT blast. So that blast is very, very aggressive. It's pointed, it's clear, it's easy to see. So if you were typing Teal from a Myers-Briggs standpoint without these categories, you'll see a lot of people are typing her as an INTJ, maybe an ENTJ with that TE and NI. But the NI is actually a demon. She's not taking responsibility for the patterns, even though she's pushing on them. She's taking responsibility for the facts and the sensory. So that can be hard to see. Teal Swan is a harder type to see off the bat. I have one other point on here, which is she growth or fixed mindset? I've been watching Teal for a long time. And I would lean toward probably growth mindset. She's been through a lot of shit. I've seen her doing a lot of the work on self. It's been a fucking battle for her, but she's owned a lot of shit and she's made a huge difference. That's why she has, I think one of the reasons she has a huge following is because she's owned a lot of the bottom parts. But the work for someone like Teal Swan is going to be, again, working on what she values apart from logic. What does she just like just because? What's important to her? What is her greatest value? Not what makes the most sense. What does she value? And then also again, slowing down, consuming more, updating the information, and then communicating. She's never going to have a problem communicating. She's extremely clear, extremely concise. I've learned a ton from Teal. I really love Teal. I really, as a masculine TI, I really resonate with the masculine TE and the directness. So this is my first one. It might feel a little all over the place. I will hone this over time. But Teal Swan is definitely not a cult leader. She is strong, confident, a powerful woman, assertive, and therefore she's got a big following. People are drawn to her energy, and she's worked through a lot. She's owned a lot of shit. She's a beautiful person, and people are drawn to that. So hopefully breaking down her type made sense. If you've watched her, next time you go watch her, you'll see this stuff even more clearly. But these are the functions she's taking responsibility for, and basically a description of her type. There are other types that are just like her that have the same life problems. So hope this was helpful for you, and we'll see you in the next one.